Hello, you're watching Razzmatazz with Rashi, and today we have with us Deepti Menon. She's an author, a teacher. She has also worked as a freelance journalist for 7 years, and she says that writing runs in her blood. In this episode, we'll get to know a lot more about Deepti and her books. Welcome, Deepti. How are you?
Thank you so much, Rashi. I'm wonderful, as always.
Good to know that. Before we move forward, I'll tell the audience that at the end of this episode, we'll have a question. And if you give the correct answers in the comments below, you stand a chance to win the mega prizes at the end of the season. You will get the answer in this episode itself, so watch till the end carefully. Also, this contest is open only for the subscribers, so don't forget to subscribe before you participate. Yes, Deepti. So tell your audience something about yourself and all the wonderful things that you do.
Wow. It's always wonderful to talk about oneself, right?
Yes.
So, okay. So I was an army kid, an army brat, turned into an army wife. Always loved writing. I think I wrote my first poem when I was 10. I think it was called My Blue Marble.
Oh, nice.
And from then on, I kept writing. I think I used to take part in a lot of literary contests in school.
Okay.
And won a few prizes here and there. And as I grew, I started writing, apart from poetry, I started writing a lot of short stories. So I was, earlier I was published in in Women's Era and Femina and Mirror. These are those old-time magazines. Yes. I'm sure you were not even born then, Rashi. But yes, that was when, those were the days when there was nothing online.
No, Deepti, I'll tell you that I just look very young. I'm not that young.
Anyway, I'm sure you're a century younger than me. So, yes. So I started writing short stories, and I used to send them to a lot of magazines and all that. And slowly, once I got married to a dashing army officer, I decided, oh wow, there's so much to write about the army as well. Yes. So I started.
That's an interesting topic.
Very, very. And being an army wife is very different from being an army brat, which I learned.
All the inside stories in your book.
Oh yes. And so I put together a lot of my experiences in the army, and that was how my first book was born. It is called Arms and the Woman, taken from Bernard Shaw's Arms and the Man. So it's called Arms and the Woman, and it took a light-hearted look at my life in the army. So you could call it a book of non-fiction because there was no fiction. It was all reality. But I tried to put it across in a fun manner because I love the army. I mean, it's the most wonderful life I can think of.
True. You've spent all your life with the army people.
Yes. I'm totally I'm totally olive green. Actually.
So how did you come up with your recent book, like the literary characters? Tell us something about that.
Oh, yes. Blog Chatter has always, I think, been very, very encouraging. We have this wonderful team there who drags out every bit from you and does it so pleasantly that you don't even know that it's being dragged out. You just enjoy it. And so this is my second book here. Last time it was on poetry. It was called Poetry, the best words in the best order. And this time I thought, okay, let me concentrate on literature. Literature is my passion. I've always loved literature. So I decided to write characters with character, pun intended.
Yeah.
And I picked up
the title itself is very confusing and interesting, both at the same time.
Thank you. I love puns. They say puns are the lowest form of writing, but I love puns anyway.
Yes.
So there I was. I wrote down. I had all these wonderful characters in my mind. I said, okay, let me put them across. That's one way to stay in touch with literature. But what happens is when you get to other kind of writing, you stop looking at literature and it just goes as plain writing. You're writing a short story, you're writing a book, you're writing poetry, but nothing to do with literature. So that is why both the books for the Blog Chatter ebook Carnival, I decided I would concentrate on poetry and literature. So that is how that got written.
Okay. And how did your shadow series come up? Like, did you think about writing a series? Like, was it planned, or like, how did that happen?
No. It was not planned at all. What
Okay.
happened is I had this kernel of an idea, small little idea, which resulted in this book called Shadow in the Mirror. You can see this woman. I mean,
Yes.
she's very enigmatic, right? I have no idea who she is. My wonderful publisher, Dipanka Mukherjee of Readomania, is the one who dug out this image. And
Okay.
it's quite
Nice.
So I sent this. It's a psychological thriller, actually. This book. And so when I wrote it, I had no idea that I was going to be writing more shadowing books. Now, what happens is my friends look at me and say, "You have got one of those really innocent faces. How do you write such gory stuff which is so scary?" So I always tell them my husband sleeps with one eye open in the night.
Oh God.
So here it was, the book got written, and I enjoyed writing it basically because I love thrillers. I've always loved reading, maybe mysteries and thrillers. Agatha Christie was an all-time favorite.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes, all those, wonderful.
Yes.
Victoria Holt and Mary Stuart, all those were my favorites. And so that is why I decided. And I love tales with a twist, There has to be a twist when those are those tales that intrigue me. And
yes, I was coming to that question as well. Like, what do you keep in your mind too? Like, you are such a nice thriller writer. So what do you all think that elements that goes into writing a good thriller story?
Thank you. Oh, thriller stories. I think, first of all, a thriller story has to be thrilling. Full stop.
Yes.
What I normally do is I start with a punch. When it's a whole book, my very first chapter in this started with a death scene.
Oh, okay.
You start with a punch and you kind of, grip the reader. You have that, you hook the reader and you say, okay, now let's see where this is going. Okay. The very beginning. And then, I carry on with little twists here and there. And it goes on and on and on. Then you have one massive twist that comes in between. And that twist is what you must have people saying, oh, we didn't see that coming. Where did that come from?
Okay.
That is what I kind of...
A kind of sudden shock or something.
Yes. In fact, my short stories, I always end my short stories with that twist.
Okay, that's nice.
And and I feel, I feel happy when people say, oh, we didn't see that coming. How did you get that? We were thinking of all the other options, but you still stumped us, That makes me feel nice.
That's a compliment.
Yes.
So when did you think of creating this story into your entire series of stories of the Shadow series?
And so what happened is, after I wrote this was in 2016. And then I have been writing short stories for a number of anthologies, almost 25 anthologies. And all kinds. It's not just thrillers, but we have, romance and mystery and folk tales. In fact, I did an entire series on the Panchatantra also.
Okay,
and
nice.
Yes, and I have a manuscript ready on Shakespearean stories. So there are a lot of different things. I have a little story of a little book on poetry as well.
Oh, wow.
So I try and experiment with different genres. Now,
That's so good.
The Shadow, thank you. And when this Shadow in the Mirror got written, I had a lot of stories lying around, and my publisher said, "Why don't you put the stories together and let us just call it something?" So we were thinking of a name, and he says, "Why don't we give it a shadowy name then? It might go with your previous book." So that is where Shadows Follow was a book of thriller short stories, an anthology of my thriller short stories. Nice. So that came in 2020, in the midst of Corona.
My goodness. That's a good thing that happened to you then.
Really, I think I feel very sad saying it, but I have had a very good period of writing because we were at home, and so I got a lot of time to write.
A lot of time.
So the whole world was suffering. And it did impact my writing as well, because I do have stories on the virus as well in my book.
Okay.
And so 2020 this came out, and 2021 he said, "Do you have any more stories?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "Okay, let's bring out another book." So
that's wonderful.
It's called Shadows Never Lie. So that is how the three shadow books.
Wonderful.
Now we call it the Shadow Trilogy. It was never meant to be a trilogy. It just happened.
Now that's really good. That it's like your publishers also helped you with the ideas, like how you can convert it to.
He's very supportive, extremely. He supports a lot of writers. Reader Mania brings out a number of new writers all the time,
True.
Yes.
So like you have written so many books, like in poetry, also on your short stories. So what tips would you give to the writers who are struggling to, finish their manuscripts, or who want to come up with a book, but they are lost somewhere? What tips do you have for them?
I know. I actually don't know whether I'm qualified to give tips, because I think all of us learn the hard way. We just put it out there.
Maybe you can share your secrets and your experiences.
So I think my one thing that I've always been very, very firm about is that when you write, make sure you put in your best. Nobody is interested in second best. So when the first manuscript or your first draft is never going to be perfect. But that is only the first. It's only the first. You must keep polishing your manuscript or your draft. Keep it till it sparkles. You have to be, you have to be convinced that every word is right. Every word is in the right place. And once that happens, once you are convinced that your script or your manuscript is good enough to be sent, then only should you actually be brave enough to send it anywhere. I think that is what I'm very particular, because I think being an English teacher, I think errors jump out at me. It's a horrible feeling, you're reading something and suddenly an error usually hits you high.
That's very irritating.
Yeah, and then you say, oh no, my God, such a beautiful piece of writing, but that takes it away.
Yes.
So I think we should make sure that little error is also not there. If you are not
confident to the language.
Yes, pay attention to language, pay attention to the genre, and if you're not qualified to do your own editing, get an editor. It's always so much better. The editor gives you so much more. Helps you even develop the story if required. All of us go through editors. All of us still go through editors.
We also have beta readers, or you can just send your copies to your friends and family just to get a feedback.
Absolutely. We have this lovely writing group. We have a number of.
We have a whole writing community with us.
Oh yes, Blog Chatter itself has so many people, wonderful writers and wonderful readers, and a wonderful team. But you also have other writing groups, so you share your work.
Yeah.
If you're confident enough to share your work and take criticism, I think that is the best thing.
That's the best, true.
So take criticism with an open mind. Good, proper criticism, of course, not just nitpicking. I think.
So how do you find time for writing? Like, do you dedicate particular, like, do you have a routine that you follow for your writing, or how do you try to finish them?
No, I don't. I don't have a routine, but I do have a little. I've written on a little piece of paper, write every day, and that keeps me going. Because I go to school. I go to school and I come back only around 3:30, 4:15 sometimes. I try to write at night. After dinner, that is my me time. So that is when I write. Holidays, of course, I try to write, but I always try to write every day, because I think that little practice keeps you in touch. And I have a blog. I have a blog which is called Deep Ties. It's a little fun on my name.
Yeah, with the name.
Yeah. So there also I try and write regularly. Blog Chatter really helps, because we put so many blog posts forward.
Blog posts, and so many challenges keep coming up.
Oh yes. So I try and take part in those challenges. I make time for my writing, because writing is a passion. It's a passion. I can't let it go. It's like I breathe, I write.
Yeah, that's so nice. So what are your future plans now? Are you writing more books or short stories, or what are you busy with?
Short stories. I may write a few more. I have a few short stories in hand, but I have 3 manuscripts.
That's wonderful.
Have been written, but they're still going through the editing process. I have a book on Shakespeare, like I said, which is ready, but which needs to come out at the right time. So we're waiting there. And yes, that's coming. And we carry on doing a little bit of writing. Something or the other carries on, but these are what I want to bring up.
That's really very inspiring.
Thank you so much. No, it's just, writing is just so wonderful. You just want to do it all the time.
Exactly. So would you like to read something for us from any of your books?
Sure. One I would like to tell you also. I read I've been reading your writing. I
Oh,
love the way you write, and
oh,
your
thank
writing
you.
is so humane, and
Yeah.
you are such a, it's such an easy read when you write.
Uh-huh.
I love reading your writing because it's all going. I enjoyed reading your writing. I think I
That's
commented on your
such a beautiful
writing.
compliment. Thank you. You made my day.
I love reading your writing.
Thank you so much.
Uh, okay, so
Hmm.
maybe I can just read. How long do you want it to be? A paragraph?
Yeah, a
A
paragraph
little bit?
is good. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so this is
Shadow
from
in the mirror.
this is Shadow in the Mirror. Like I said,
Mhm.
the first scene is the death scene. So let
Yes.
me just read that out.
Yes.
Okay,
Why not?
so yeah. So it starts off with the title is Cruel Winter.
Hmm.
And Cruel Winter, and below that, the death scene,
Okay.
1989. Okay, this entire book, all the titles are based on seasons. So you have winter,
Okay.
summer, you have spring, so it carries on. The
Nice.
entire book has those.
Yeah,
So
that's
it says, okay,
interesting. Mhm.
thank you. So this is where the first scene says, "Help me, dear God, help." Her scream vanished in the breeze, and she found herself hurtling down. The stories whizzed by, and the breath was squeezed out of her lungs. The ground was a speck in the distance, as a sun ray caught her eyes, sparkling like the glass diamonds that grinned on the high wall around the building. Oblivion, blessed oblivion, was seeping over her heart. She thought of her father, how this would break his heart. How she hated the Ferris wheel as a child because it made her stomach churn. She, who could get sick even on an articuttle, a swing bed in old Kerala households. Her stomach was churning now. The descent seemed unending, and with a sinking feeling, she sensed the ground speeding up to receive her. Soon it would all be over. Her life and that of the tiny one she carried within her. Her last, surprisingly calm thought was that of the man she loved, her husband, who worshipped her. I wish things could have been different, my love. A grotesque face arose in her mind, and she wondered if it was death beckoning to her, grinning, waiting to grab her very soul. Or was it a face she knew, a cruel parody that had blighted all that it had breathed on? The ground seemed very close now, and her thoughts flickered like a candle flame as she struggled to get away from the phantoms whirling about her. And then cruel winter and the velvety darkness overtook her, numbing her senses as it slid gently over her, and she knew no more.
My
Thank you.
goodness, that's really, really very, gripping start and a very beautiful writing and
Thank
even
you
more
so much.
beautiful narration. All
Thank
in a
you,
like whole
Rashi.
package.
Thank you
That's
so
really good.
much.
So I would like to tell the
Thank
audience that your question for today is Deepti has come up with a shadow series. So you have to name any one book from that series. So you'll find the answer in this episode itself. Watch it carefully if you did not watch till now and write the correct answer in the comments below. And thank you so much, Deepti. It was wonderful speaking to you and wish you all the best with all the books that you're coming up now.
Thank you so much, Rashi. It was an even greater pleasure speaking to you. I loved how easily we've been speaking.
Yes,
It's been such fun. Thank you. And all the best with everything you do. We must keep in touch.
definitely will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely
Bye.
day.
Same to
A
you.
lovely night. A lovely
Bye.
night, actually.
Yes.